Hi, friends. So I decided that this next episode really just has to be about Star Trek. I have been a Trekkie since I was 5 or 6 years old, thanks to my older sister. Back in episode 2, I think, I talked a bit about how she used to stay up late watching Lost in Space and Star Trek, the original series, and that's how she got me into it. And when we were growing up, Next Gen was airing, and I can remember watching the 6th and 7th seasons as they aired. The 6th season finale, in particular, was the cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers. Data's evil brother Lore seems to have turned Data against our beloved crew, and my sister and I walked around quoting the final line of the episode all summer long.
The sons of Sung have joined together, and together we will destroy the Federation.
Like, this dramatic music is so good, I still get chills just hearing it. And then I remember when Star Trek Deep Space Nine started. And this was before Next Gen ended, and I remember watching it a bit. But as a kid, I didn't really get into it. All I remember is how much I loved the character of Kira. And I just think my young mind couldn't wrap my head around it. It was definitely a different and darker Trek. I also remember watching the season premiere of Star Trek Voyager when it aired. That was a big deal in our house. We made it into a party. Back then, though, we couldn't just watch any episode anytime we wanted, like we can today with streaming. It was called appointment television. We relied heavily on being in front of the television set or VHS tapes and reruns. But I finally got into DS9 when I was in high school, grade 11 or 12. It used to come on the Space Channel while I was at school, so I used to record the episodes and then come home from school and watch it. And this was also when DVDs of TV shows started to come out, and they were not cheap, let me tell you. I saved up and bought my favorite DS9 season, which was season 6, and I totally wore those DVDs out. It took a while until I bought all of the seasons, but I just absolutely fell in love with DS9. And it's not that I loved it more than Next Gen, it was just a different way. And I think that's how I feel about all of the Star Trek series. Sometimes I have one favorite and then a few weeks later I have another. It really just depends on my mood and what I'm currently watching, but my love for Star Trek is infinite. I also wanted to put it out there that I am a fan of the reboot movies that started in 2009, starring Chris Pine, and then all the new series that have come out since then, like Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Picard, Lower Decks. I still have yet to watch Prodigy, though. Don't hate me, but I'm saving it to start watching with my daughter in the next year or two. But a big reason Star Trek has stayed so meaningful to me over the years is because long before a lot of other TV did, it showed what it looks like when people from completely different backgrounds come together and actually work together. So growing up watching Star Trek, I saw, starships full of humans from all over Earth working together with aliens like Vulcans, Klingons, Trill, Bajorans, and none of that diversity was ever treated like something really unusual. It was just the way things were supposed to be. And as a South Asian kid growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, that really mattered more than I realized at the time. At first, Star Trek didn't always put Indian or South Asian characters front and center, but they were there, and that was the point. So hearing names like Lieutenant Radha, which just happens to be my daughter's name, and Lieutenant Singh in the original series, and then another Lieutenant Singh in Next Gen, it was those like little tiny details that really mattered. And even Khan Noonien Singh's background in the original series episode Space Seed, it's established that he is a North Indian and a follower of Sikhism like me. And that message it's just so powerful when you're a kid to know that, you know what, we belong in the future. And it's important for kids like me who don't often see ourselves reflected in the shows that we watch. Another important character to me is Dr. Julian Bashir, played by Alexander Siddig on Deep Space Nine. And in this case, he wasn't just a background extra. He was a core cast member. a brilliant doctor and a character who grew so much from season 1 until we see him in season 7. And seeing a brown actor have such a central, respected role, it just made such a huge impact on me. And even if I didn't have the language for it back then, I knew it really felt important. And it felt like, hey, we're not just in the background anymore. We're actually part of the story. And I actually got the opportunity to speak with Sid online back in 2020 when I discovered SidCity.net, which is like his fan club run by someone named Mel, who's amazing. And he started these meetings to chat with fans. He really had an interest in the fans and their lives, and he wanted to know how everyone was doing during COVID and quarantine. And so I decided to sign up and see if I could actually speak to him. And I did. I got to speak to him. It was really cool. I remember explaining my name to him, and he actually took the time to ask for the correct pronunciation and asked what my name meant. And to be honest, a lot of the conversation is a blur, but I did want to make sure that I told him how much I appreciated his character and the work he did on the show. Seeing him and seeing his character on such a huge show is like Star Trek, especially back in the 90s, like that's a huge deal. And I told him that as an Indian kid growing up back then, it was rare to see myself reflected in popular culture. And his character, he looked different and he spoke different. He had a really unique name, but that was never the focus. It was just the way it was. He was just the station's doctor, not the station's Middle Eastern or Indian doctor. He was just the doctor. And so, yeah, I got to tell him about how I got into Star Trek and how we had a huge party to watch the finale of Next Gen. We got on the topic of the Beatles, and I got to tell him how big of a fan I am. And he asked me to name my top 2 favorite albums. Yeah, it was just such an amazing conversation. And really, that little time that he takes for his fans, it just means so much to us. Like, it's a small portion of time for him, but it's like a lasting memory for us. So I thank him for that. It was just such a great experience to be able to speak to him and really tell him what his work has meant to me. And this is Star Trek. This is Star Trek at its best. It imagines a future where everyone, no matter your race, gender, culture, identity, even your species, we all have a place in the future. So even though I rotate through my favorite captain and my answer to my favorite series might change, depending on my mood, my love for Star Trek itself, that's the part that will always stay constant. So thanks for listening. Definitely stay tuned for more upcoming Trek content. And until next time, take good care of each other.